here's the problem, is that positive thinking doesn't work when there's a disconnect between the way that you actually feel and the thought that you're trying to think. Hello, and welcome to The Joy Within, where we're eliminating negativity one thought at a time. I'm Kyle Greenfield, and I'll be your guide as we explore how to be calm, confident, and happy in our crazy modern world. Join us each week as we dive into some of the biggest ideas in spirituality and personal development. We'll learn what it takes to gain control of your own mind, master your mood, and navigate the many ups and downs along the way. Visit thejoywithin.org to get started so you can become the calm, confident, and happy person you truly deserve to be. Hello, and welcome back to the Joy Within's podcast. Today, I want to talk about positive thinking and why most of the time it just doesn't work. Now, I know that positive thinking is a huge pillar of the personal development industry, but the reality is, I think the way that it's usually taught, the way that most people try to work with it in their day-to-day lives, is really misleading and not very effective. At best, it's just not that helpful. But at worst, it can actually set you back and keep you from the state of mind that you really want to be in. At least, I know for me, trying to quote-unquote think positively massively held me back for years. And for a long time, I'm talking about almost a decade, I thought that positive thinking was total BS. And because I thought it was BS, I blocked myself from learning the tools and the strategies that actually work. This is how it would play out. I'd be in a negative state of mind, whether I was depressed or upset or frustrated or whatever. And because I was feeling down, pretty much anything that would happen in that moment, I'd have a negative response to. I'd think something critical or sarcastic or judgmental or pessimistic in some way. Then I'd think, oh no, I need to think more positively. So I'd try to make something up. I'd think about what I could say that would sound better, that would be a more positive thought. In theory, that sounds good, right? Except nothing would happen. I'd still be in a bad mood, and sometimes I'd even feel worse. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever tried to come up with a good thought or an affirmation that sounds better, but really, deep down, it just makes you feel worse? It's so frustrating, and I'd always wind up feeling disheartened and even a little embarrassed or ashamed even. Because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, man, why can't I do this? I can't even think one stupid positive thought. And I'd just beat myself up about it, and it would make things worse. So here's the problem, is that positive thinking doesn't work when there's a disconnect between the way that you actually feel and the thought that you're trying to think. Let me repeat that. Positive thinking does not work when there is a disconnect between the way that you feel in this moment and the thought that you're trying to think. And when you're in a negative state, there aren't very many positive thoughts that you can feel in that moment. They might sound nice, but you just don't really believe them. You're just paying lip service. You can't really connect with them. So because you can't connect with them, because you can't feel them and believe them right then and there, they don't help. And sometimes they just make you feel even more upset. And when there is that disconnect, when there's a gap between the way that you feel and the thought that you're trying to think, it doesn't matter how good it sounds. It doesn't matter how many times you repeat it. It doesn't matter how you affirm it or the energy that you try to force yourself into when you do. If you don't believe it, it won't work. And here's the tricky thing. This is the thing that really trips people up, is that what you believe changes from moment to moment. What you actually believe, what you can align with, changes depending on how you feel in that moment. And that means that the quote-unquote right thought that you should think, the right affirmation, will change as well. That's why you can't just keep repeating the same affirmations over and over and over again. You have to be more fluid. You have to be more responsive. You have to adapt them. You have to have a mechanism that helps you reach for the thought that will actually work for you in that moment. even as your mood is changing, even as you're faced with a ton of different experiences every single day. And that's what your resonance does. That's why it's so important to tune into your inner energy. It is your silent inner guide, your beacon that is always on and always responding to exactly where you are, in good moods and bad, every second of every day. Find that feeling of resonance first, and the right next thought will be there. And often, that next, better thought might not even sound positive. It might just be something that is slightly less negative than where you were a moment before. And that's okay. That's the path. Because if you can connect with that thought, even if it's still negative, even if it doesn't sound like your idea of what a positive thought should be or what a perfect affirmation should be, then it will pull you into a higher state. Then you can pick another thought, and then another and another, until you actually start to feel better. But the important thing to realize is that the feeling of resonance always comes first. Then the better feeling thought will arise, not the other way around. Thanks for listening to today's episode. When you're ready to put these ideas to work in your own life, head over to thejoywithin.org and sign up for Happiness University. When you do, you'll have access to all of the tools and strategies you need to eliminate negative thoughts by tuning in to the Joy Within. You can follow a simple, step-by-step system to become the calm, confident, and happy person you deserve to be. Visit thejoywithin.org to get started today. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone you love, because I think we can all use a little more joy in our crazy modern world.